Right now, the No Kings protest is taking place in Madison's downtown, what they're calling for from the current administration. Welcome to News 3 Now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. Right now, all over the country, millions of protesters are hitting the streets for what they are calling the No Kings rally, speaking out against the actions of the Trump administration. This is the second No Kings rally of the year. Back in June, No Kings rallies were held across the country in response to a military parade held on the 250th birthday of the Army, which coincided with President Trump's birthday. The rally has now reached the streets of Madison. The footage you see now is from earlier as thousands marched to our state's capital. And that is where we find our Ellie La Liberté, who has been following the rally for the entire day. Now, Ellie, what have you seen out there so far?
Hey, Jalen. Yeah, this protest wrapped up about 20 minutes ago, but police estimate 15,000 people came out today to protest the Trump administration and things like its immigration policy and use of the National Guard in cities across the U.S. Now, the protests in Madison today were one of about 2,500 nationwide, and people began marching up East Washington at about 2 p.m. today. But police say that they were briefly rerouted because a K-9 unit suspected there may be an explosive in a car. Now, that threat was deemed not credible. There was no explosive in the car. And as of 5:30, there was no arrest made at this rally. Now, when I was talking with people today, they said that this event was really to speak up and build a community.
I think that this brings a lot of awareness and attention because obviously there's like thousands of people down here, and seeing all the signs and seeing what people vote for, like, it brings a community together and it gives a sense of community because we're all here. We are all wishing upon the same things, and it really brings people together so people don't feel isolated.
They come here for a new future and new hope, and that's not what's happening right now. People should not be taken from their families. People should not be being homeless, losing their homes, and it's so unfair.
Now, some of the speakers at today's event included Congressman Mark Pocan, as well as the former chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, Ben Wickler, both echoing that message for people here today to get out and vote in the 2026 midterm elections. I'll send it back to you in studio, but for now, reporting live at the state capitol, Ellie La Liberté, News 3 Now.
Ellie, thank you. Republican leaders are condemning the rallies, calling them Hate America rallies, and protesters say they're peaceful and part of protecting democracy and their First Amendment rights. More No Kings protests were held across the state today. The scene that you just seen was in New Glarus, where a crowd held signs and encouraged drivers along Highway 69 to honk their horns and support. Again, protests going on all over our state, and that's not limited to what we just mentioned. They also held them in Milwaukee, Kenosha, and Oconomowoc. And overall, as Ellie had mentioned,
from coast to coast on Saturday, protesters gathered at No Kings rallies against the Trump administration, standing up for democracy and First Amendment rights.
Every American should be really concerned that Trump's mission appears to be to just demolish and destabilize the Constitution.
And when we start seeing that rights are being eroded, then it's time for us to do something and to speak up.
Organizers say protests were planned in more than 2,500 large cities and small towns. Celebrity scientist Bill Nye took part in a rally in Washington, D.C.
Rather than doing one monarch's bidding, we have agreed to form a democracy, to work together, and to follow the laws that derive from it. No thrones, no crowns, no kings.
In some cases, entire families came out to protest.
There's a whole movement of people across the political spectrum that are here to stand up for what's right.
Protests additionally took place in Europe, where Europeans and American citizens living abroad stood in solidarity.
So I'm here to remind people that what we are founded on is the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Members of the Trump administration have called the rallies anti-American, and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says the protests are a Hate America rally, but organizers say the protests are peaceful.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said this weekend's events are, quote, what democracy looks like. And all this comes as the government shutdown moves into a third week. Elise Preston, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Elise and Ellie, thank you for that continued coverage. Let's go ahead and get a look At your first Horn forecast with meteorologist Blaze Keller. Blaze.
And we're beginning to see that shower activity pick up across southern Wisconsin. We had a few thunderstorms roll through mainly the Dodgeville area, and we'll take it into these showers, but we're not done with the rain yet. We're going to continue to see that chance for rain as we go throughout the rest of this evening, really picking up in intensity and coverage, not to mention our winds are also going to pick up as well. South of Baraboo, near Portage, Poinette, into the Arena Cross Plains area, that's where we do find a few of those more moderate to in certain areas, heavy showers down into Argyle, Gratiot, into the Cuba City area, south into Platteville as well. A little bit of that rain activity extending its way into Dubuque and Dickeyville. As I mentioned, we're going to continue to see this chance for rain as we head further into this evening. Watch as Future Track brings up that rain as we get closer to the midnight hour. Can't rule out a few thunderstorms. Not anticipating any severe thunderstorms, though, and that rain is going to stick around into the morning hours on Sunday. So we're heading into the 40s tonight, 50s tomorrow. Jalen, we'll take a look at what else we can expect to end the weekend in the full forecast.
All right, sounds good, Blaze. We'll see you in just a bit. Now, for the first time since the beginning of the John Nolan reconstruction, it was a Badger game day right here in Madison. Now, as you guys know, this was one of the busiest Saturdays of October with both the Dane County Farmers Market and the No Kings protest happening downtown. That's on top of the game and all the road works. But through all of it, the University of Wisconsin made sure that their fans were covered through the Wisconsin Badgers app.
I didn't even think about traffic today because it's such a beautiful day, but getting the Badger app and notifying us before we left home to get there early and avoid John Nolan, and that there are multiple other events going on in Madison besides the game.
With the busy travel season coming up and holidays and such, make sure to stay on top of local events and construction. You can find all that on channel3000.com. Officials are investigating after gunshots were reported on the city's east side Thursday night. Officers were called to Nakusa Trail near the intersection with Walsh Road just before 8 p.m. for reports of multiple gunshots and a possible disturbance. 2 shell casings were found in the street, but no property damage was found, and fortunately no injuries were reported. In Lafayette County, officials say they have seized 18 dogs and found another dead at a man's property. Sheriff's deputies were originally called to a property on Wardsville Road near the intersection with Highway U on Thursday evening for a welfare check. There they found numerous dogs being neglected. They returned Friday afternoon after checking earlier in the morning and finding no one home to seize the dogs. The owner was arrested around 7:30 that night. He faces numerous charges for animal mistreatment and bail jumping. Police say an investigation is currently ongoing and that other people connected to the property may also face charges. Coming up next on News 3 Now, 10 FAA facilities reported short staffing Friday as air traffic controllers continue to work without getting paid due to the government shutdown. Plus, Americans are spending more on Halloween costumes than in years past. How one business owner is trying to help consumers.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Thank you for staying with us. 3 additional FAA facilities reported air traffic control staffing shortages on Friday, bringing the total to 10. This includes 2 facilities which handle approaching or departing flights in Southern California, plus the center that handles high-altitude flights around LA. This is in addition to shortages were reported earlier Friday at centers that control high-altitude traffic around Atlanta, as well as controllers who deal with flights around Newark, Chicago, and Las Vegas. The Boston Center, as well as 2 parts of the Albuquerque Center, had also reported staffing shortages. The cause of the staffing problems is not immediately clear. However, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has said some workers are taking unscheduled time off to protest not being paid due to the government shutdown. Short staffing of air traffic controllers was reported 153 times at FAA facilities since the start of the shutdown. When finances get tight for families, things like kids' Halloween costumes may fall through the cracks. According to the National Retail Federation, consumers are spending an average of $37.62 on costumes this year. That's about an 11% increase from last year. Customers pre-pandemic in 2019 were about $7 cheaper. But for one Texas man, it's his life's mission to make and give away free Halloween costumes. CBS's Karen Hua joins us with this story stitched from the heart.
Several times a week, Christoph Wagoner goes digging for treasure. I'm trying to see if anything catches my attention.
Buried deep, he sometimes strikes gold.
It's usually either shiny, furry, or sparkly.
And he always comes away with a big haul.
7, 8, 9.
These may seem like random pieces of clothing from a Goodwill in Central Texas, but Wagner has a vision.
I can cut that off, sew them up, make them shorter.
Soon, these will all be Halloween costumes.
It's like winning when you find two pieces that go together.
Back home in Austin, he washes, cuts, glues, and sews, redesigning thousands of garments into something brand new.
Why is it important that they feel like they're not just getting a hand-me-down?
I want everybody, all the kids, their parents, whatever, to feel like they're getting the same thing that somebody went out and bought.
Then every fall, Wagner hosts events for kids to pick out costumes for free. While he's been doing this for 9 years, he says turnout has been the biggest ever this season.
There's a lot of people getting their jobs taken away from them. Everything is going up in price.
The cost of costumes can be scary for some right now due to the tariffs on most goods from China.
What do you say to people who think it's just a Halloween costume? There are much more important things in this economy, putting food on the table, shelter.
Everybody should deserve a chance to be a kid.
And every year, his own kindness is paid forward. Families who've gotten costumes from him return and donate.
The very first one, I had a kid, probably 6 years old, come up to me with a costume and said, "My mommy said I could give this to you because I can't wear it. Maybe somebody else can."
Wagner just wants every kid to experience the universal joy of trick-or-treating without the financial burden for parents.
I mean, with two, it's nice to not have to worry about the expense.
I love that he has so many people who support him and do that and bring the costumes to recycle them.
The donations help because at 62 and still working a full-time job, Wagner buys garments out of pocket and spends more than $5,000 a year for storage alone.
What's the payoff?
The goal is to make people better than they were before the event. And if there's somebody there to help you, then you're more than likely to turn around and help somebody else.
Wagner has become the fairy godfather for kids who may feel like Cinderella, turning rags into regalia to keep the magic of Halloween alive.
With Wagner's story spreading, people have begun to ship in their used costumes from all across the country. It's kindness and paying it forward. Karen Hua, CBS News, Austin, Texas.
And coming up next on News 3 Now, Blaze Keller returns with a complete look of your first one forecast. Let's go ahead and get a look at your first one forecast with meteorologist Blaze Keller. Blaze.
And we are looking at a windy couple of days here as a series of low pressure systems are going to be moving through the Midwest, one almost right after the other, and that begins later tonight. Our second low pressure system is going to come out of lower portions of the Mississippi River Valley and quickly move its way into Michigan overnight. Sunday will be steadily clearing throughout the day. Sunday night does look to be quiet, and then we're back to dealing with rain and at the very least breezy conditions as we start off next week. Tomorrow, definitely going to be cooler than today. We can thank breezy northwesterly winds gusting upwards of 30 miles per hour at time for that, not to mention a little bit of that cloud cover sticking around. But we will see more sunshine throughout the day from west to east. So folks in, say, Watertown, Janesville, parts of Dodge, Jefferson, Rock, certainly Walworth counties, we're going to be underneath that cloud cover for a little bit longer than, say, our friends and neighbors off in Vernon, Grant, Crawford, and Richland counties. That low pressure system will continue to pull its way off into parts of Canada as we go further into Sunday. So again, starting off with breezy or cloudy conditions, breezy conditions sticking with us throughout the day, but we will see some late day sunshine starting in the early afternoon hours on Sunday. That low pressure system moves on out of here. We get a brief break from not only the wind, but the cloud cover Sunday night into Monday. And then Monday into what could be as late as Wednesday, this low pressure system slowly spins its way through the Midwest. We'll start off sunny and then become more cloudy with that rain moving in as we end Monday going into Tuesday. Because this low pressure system eventually gets cut off from the jet stream, it's going to really just take its time spinning slowly eastward Tuesday into Wednesday. So we'll continue to deal with the wraparound rain chances as well as those breezy conditions, not only Tuesday night, but into Wednesday as well. When looking at the rain primarily through this evening into Sunday, higher accumulations there off towards Waukesha, Milwaukee, to the tune of about a half to maybe 3/4 of an inch. Maybe isolated spots near an inch to an inch and a half of rain, but a lot of us across more of central southern Wisconsin, we're looking at about 1/4 to a half an inch of rain at best. And we're definitely in need of some rain. While there's not as much red on the map, which is some good news, we're still, most of us, only about 25% to 50% of our normal rainfall that we would have otherwise picked up from the start of the month through today's date. So we do need this rain. It is going to make going outside a little bit maybe on the dreary side. You can always track any showers by downloading our First Warn Weather app. Not to mention it's going to be breezy, Jalen, and folks at home, as I said, tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, possibly lingering into Wednesday. 50s all next week with overnight lows in the 30s and 40s as well.
I'm just happy that these fall-like temps looks like they're finally here to stay. You and I in particular, we were like really trying our best to hold out and get to this time of the year.
You know, it was a tough watch watching Lord of the Rings when it was 90 degrees, but now it's starting to feel like fall, and I can start the Hobbit trilogy.
All right, I'm with you on that one. Still ahead, the Badgers are up against Ohio State as they try to salvage their season. Our Andrew Bandstra breaks down tonight's game. Right here on News 3 Now, Wisconsin football hosted the #1 team in the country at Camp Randall. Sports director Andrew Bandstra was there, and we sent it to him live at Camp Randall. Andrew, how did it go?
There was just a different vibe at Camp Randall today. The Badgers came into their tilt with top-ranked Ohio State with an 0-3 record in Big Ten play, having been outscored 88-20 in those contests. There was simply no hope for an upset today at Camp Randall, just hope that it wouldn't be too ugly. And the bad news was that it was that ugly from the jump. The Badgers were outclassed by the Buckeyes. Bucky went 3 and out on their first drive, and Ohio State responded with a score. How about this? Julian Sayin slinging it to Carnell Tate. No helmet, no problem. 7-0 Buckeyes. And later in the first, it was that same connection, Sayin to Tate, who salsas on Wisconsin's sorrows. The Buckeyes would take a 17-0 lead into halftime. Wisconsin's defense struggled, but the offense was anemic, collecting a total of 144 yards in the game, their least in a contest since 1996. In the third, the Buckeyes scored again through the air once more. Sayin finds his tight end to make it 27-0 and found Brandon Innes for another Ohio State score in the fourth. Ohio State's QB threw for nearly 400 yards and 4 touchdowns as the Badgers are shut out at home for the second week in a row, losing 34-0.
Look, man, I mean, you love these kids, and you hopefully you can see the fight that's still in them. And, you know, yeah, you want to see better. I want to see better. There's a disappointment inside that locker room, but it's not from a lack of guys that are trying to, you know, put the product on the field and represent the W the way the W is supposed to be represented. And that's, you know, if that's not good enough, that's not good enough. When we win games, they'll come back. And, you know, that's our job. So I know this, that it's disappointing to our kids, but it's also can be motivating as well.
Now, Jalen, of course, there are two sides to the coin. On the one hand, it could have been a lot worse, and nobody expected Wisconsin to beat Ohio State. But, Jalen, as you know, these games are the ones that Luke Fickell was brought in to win, or at least be competitive in, and the Badgers were nowhere near that today. I'll send it back to you guys, and we'll have much more coverage tonight here at Camp Randall. But for now, at Camp Randall, Andrew Bandstra, News 3 Sports.
Andrew, thank you. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock. I mean, Blaze, we sit here every weekend and we talk about the games. And, you know, just our hearts really go out to the fans, the people that go out and they really support it. You know, it's been, you know, a relatively tough season, but hopefully things can turn around the second half of the season. But with that being said, a lot of people out enjoying the game. They're going to be downtown.
Yep.
What should they expect this evening?
Some rain showers here and there. I would say the better chance for rain is going to pick up as we get closer to the midnight hour. So if you're still going to be out, just make sure that you have the umbrella, a rain jacket with you. First Warn Weather app, you can always just take a quick peek at our interactive radar and see where those showers and maybe a few thunderstorms may be. Rainy and windy conditions stick with us through at least Wednesday of next week, 50s, starting on Tuesday.